All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. And it is that time of the week, folks. It's all about my picks for this weekend in the National Football League. Went 12 and 4 last week with my selections. Got off to a good start once again this week. I picked the Seattle Seahawks to defeat the Arizona Cardinals last night, and I actually said Seahawks 23, Cardinals 20. So, with that said, let's see if we could build off of that prediction. We have got some tremendous games on tap for Sunday, 13 of them to be exact, as well as another double header on Monday night. We've got some teams that are undefeated squaring off. We also have some teams that are winless who are squaring off as well. So let's see who has what it takes to win in week number 4 in this NFL season. Now, the action starts on Sunday morning over in Europe. As for the first time, the National Football League will be playing a regular season game in the country of Ireland, as you got the 2-1 Minnesota Vikings clashing with the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. So, of course, one of these teams is going to leave Ireland with a record of 3-1. They're going to feel good about themselves heading back to the States. And for the Vikings, they come into this contest favored by 2.5 points. They have to like what they saw from veteran quarterback Carson Wentz as he ran the offense last week. Remember, J.J. McCarthy is out with the injury. And the bottom line is Carson Wentz knows how to get it done in this league. And, of course, this is probably the best wide receiver that Carson Wentz arguably has thrown the football to in one Justin Jefferson. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, it has not been pretty so far this season, but the Steelers are 2-1, and I think it's going to be one of those traditional Aaron Rodgers led teams as they're going to get better as the season progresses. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers defense play better last week in the road win over the New England Patriots, and I think they need to try to find a way to build off of that. I want to see if the Steelers front seven, most notably TJ Watt, can he get to Carson Wentz and put the pressure on him? Because what we've seen throughout Carson Wentz's career is if you get to him early and rattle him, you know what? You can have some success. Like I said, the Vikings are favored by 2.5 points in this one. However, I like Pittsburgh to leave Ireland with the 24-21 win. Now, back stateside, you've got the 2-1 Washington Commanders traveling to take on the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. And for Washington, it's going to be their second consecutive game without Jaden Daniels at quarterback, as they're going to go with the veteran in Marcus Mariota. And of course, no Jaden Daniels, no problem last week for the Commanders against the Vegas Raiders. On the flip side, you got the Atlanta Falcons, and they limped home. Okay. Of course, we all know they were favored last Sunday on the road against the Carolina Panthers. And the bottom line is the Carolina Panthers put a good old-fashioned butt whipping on them. Okay, 30-0. So if you're the Falcons, you basically have to go out there and burn that game film because there was really nothing good that could come from that if you are Atlanta. I think Raheem Morris and company roll up their sleeves and get it done on Sunday, though, 24-20. Now, a battle of arguably the NFL's best team right now against arguably its worst, as you have the winless New Orleans Saints making the trek to Western New York to take on the undefeated Buffalo Bills. And for Buffalo, they come into this contest favored by 14.5 points. It's their second consecutive game at home. They have plenty of rest going into this. Remember, Buffalo has not played since last Thursday. On the flip side, for New Orleans, they're getting to be as bad as most people expected them to be this season. We saw them get destroyed on the road last Sunday, courtesy of the Seattle Seahawks, and now you've got to deal with Buffalo. Now, Buffalo comes into this contest favored by 14.5, and typically, when we see a team favored by double digits in the NFL, usually they don't cover. I think this game is going to be closer than people expect early, but Buffalo pulls away late. And I do like the Bills to double up the Saints in this one, 34-17. Now, you've got the 1-2 Cleveland Browns traveling to take on the 2-1 Detroit Lions. And for Cleveland, they found a way to get a win last week at home against the Green Bay Packers. Cleveland, they were heavy underdogs in that game, and they definitely want to try to find a way to build off of that. For the Lions, they dug down deep. That was not an easy win on the road last Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens. Now you've got the short week, and you got to come back and face a Cleveland Browns team that wants to build off of their momentum from last Sunday. I think the Lions are ready to get on a roll, but they've got to go out there and take care of their business against a very scrappy Cleveland Browns team. I like this Lions offense, arguably one of the best in the National Football League. I mean, you look at what they have at wide receiver with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, as well as the dual threats at running back. And, of course, Jared Goff slinging that football around. I think the Lions take care of their business at home by the score of 31-17. Now, in a battle of 1-2 clubs, you've got the Carolina Panthers traveling to Foxborough to take on the 1-2 New England Patriots, who are looking to get their first home win of the Mike Vrabel era. The Patriots come into this game favored by 3.5 points. And what we have seen so far from the Pats under Mike Vrabel, very competitive team. They're getting it together. And I think as we get closer to the second half of the season and during the second half of the season, New England's going to be in that category of teams that a lot of people are not going to be lining up to play. If you're Carolina, you got your first win of the season. You want to try to find a way to build off of that, of course. Two young teams that are trying to turn things around. I put the onus on the Patriots in this one. They're favored by 5.5 points at home. This is their third home game so far this season, and we're just 4 weeks into the season. New England does not want to start 0-3 at home. I think the Patriots go out there and get the 24-17 win. Now at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, you've got the winless New York Football Giants hosting the undefeated Los Angeles Chargers. And for the Giants, we all know what the buzz is about right now because the rookie Jaxson Dart is set to start at quarterback for Big Blue. I said it needed to happen just due to the fact that we saw the Boo Birds last Sunday night for Russell Wilson at quarterback when the Giants lost to the Chiefs. And like I said, the Giants could not afford to send the veteran Wilson back out there again and have a mutiny on their hands with their fan base this early in the season. We don't know what Jaxson Dart is going to be. He looks solid in the preseason, okay? But, the Giants put a lot of stock into this kid. They took him in the first round. They traded back into the first round to get him this past spring. And like I said, you've got a desperate head coach in Brian Daboll that wants to see what he has, as he is simply trying to save his job. On the flip side, for the Lightning Bolts, what can you say about the Chargers? They look like one of the better teams in the AFC so far this season, not just in the AFC, but the NFL. And this team is beginning to to mold into the shape of their head coach, Jim Harbaugh. For the Giants, I think, you're giving your fan base something to be excited about because they want to see what the youngster Dart can do. However, wrong team to try to do it against in the Lightning Bolts. The Chargers come into this contest favored by 6.5 on the road. I'm going to take them by 2 touchdowns over New York, 30-16. Now, a battle of undefeateds as you have the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles traveling to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philly comes into this contest favored by 3.5 points, and it's one of those, depending on which way you look at it. You could say that, the Eagles have not played their best football so far this season, which they have not. However, at the same time, as the defending Super Bowl champions, they're getting everybody's best punches and then some. We saw the Eagles have to dig down deep to come back and get the win over the Los Angeles Rams at home this past Sunday. And now they've got to do it again against another division winner from last year in Tampa Bay. I know that the Bucs are the slight underdog at home in this one. You look at Baker Mayfield and company, they're cardiac Bucs. They just simply go out there and find a way to win the close games. On the flip side, for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's one of those where it just hasn't come to that solid team that we saw from last season, and it's going to happen. Okay, they're going to gel at some point. Philadelphia is, and I think they're going to click on all cylinders. But I'll tell you like this: as of late, Tampa Bay has had Philadelphia's number. I know that Mike Evans is out once again with a hamstring injury, but rookie wide receiver Emeka Egbuka looks like the real deal for the Bucks. I think this cover two defense of Tampa gives Philadelphia's offense some issues throughout the game, and I think the Bucks are going to do just enough to get the 24-23 win at home. Now, a battle of winless teams here is you have the winless Tennessee Titans traveling to Houston to take on the winless Texans. And of course, after consecutive AFC South titles, not too many people expected the Texans to be in this position. But last weekend in September, and the Texans are in desperation mode. What can you say about this team so far? Big disappointment, especially their offense. I think Houston needs to find a way to get some fluidity going early. I think they need to find a way to score a touchdown early, and I think that would take some pressure off of quarterback CJ Stroud. On the flip side, for the Titans, rookie quarterback Cam Ward has been taking his lumps so far this season, and now you've got Cam Ward having to go up against a vicious Texas defense, which includes Will Anderson up front. You look at Houston; they're favored in this game by 7.5. I think it's going to be closer than that. I think the Titans make them work, and but I still like the Texans 24-19. Now you have the undefeated Indianapolis Colts traveling to take on the 2-1 Los Angeles Rams. And no, I did not have it on my bingo card that after 3 games this season that the Colts would be undefeated with Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback. But you know what? That's what they're doing right now. I think as each week goes by, this team is believing in Daniel Jones more and more. You look at them; they're running the football very effective with Jonathan Taylor, and this Colts defense knows how to get after opponents. Now Daniel Jones has to go out there and face a very interesting Rams defense. I want to see what type of mood that the Rams are in for this one, because they know that they let one slip through their grasp last Sunday on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. They were up 26-7 at one point, and they could not seal the deal. Can this Colts defense, however, get to veteran Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford? We've got to wait and see. Los Angeles comes into this game favored by 3.5 points. The over-under is 49.5, and I'm going to take the Rams by the score of 27-20. Now, staying in the Golden State and moving up to Santa Clara, you got the undefeated San Francisco 49ers hosting the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. And of course, for San Francisco, it's been all about the injuries, as it's been a who's who of key players for this team that have been in street clothes for the first couple of games of the season. Now the 49ers do get quarterback Brock Purdy back. Of course, he missed the last couple of games. Mac Jones was a solid fill-in. And the bottom line is, get the ball to the skill position players that are available, most notably Christian McCaffrey at tailback. We know that the Niners are now not going to be, or not going to have rather, the services of Pro Bowl defensive end Nick Bosa for the rest of the season. He tore that ACL last week in the win against the Arizona Cardinals. However, you got Robert Saleh back as the Niners defensive coordinator. And one thing that Robert Saleh knows how to do is heat up an opposing quarterback, rush the passer. And what we have seen throughout the brief career of Trevor Lawrence as the Jags starting quarterback, it does not take that much to rattle him. San Francisco comes into this contest favored by 3.5. I like the Niners at home by the score of 23-17. Now, in a surprising battle of 1 and 2 teams, you've got the Baltimore Ravens traveling to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And for Baltimore, it's the same old song. They find ways to lose games that we all know that they should win very easily. The Ravens should be 3-0 right now, but you know what? They find ways to lose games, and of course, that was once again the case this past Monday night at home to the Lions. Now they've got to go on the road and take on a Kansas City team. A Kansas City team just got their first win of the season. They knocked off the Giants 22-9 last Sunday night on the road. You look at this game talent-wise, advantage Ravens. They have the talent, but it's one of those things where the Chiefs just know how to find ways to win the games that the Ravens simply find ways to lose. Surprisingly, Derrick Henry, the Ravens all pro running back, has had an issue holding on to the football so far this season. You cannot do that against a defense like the one that Kansas City has. It's one of those things where can the Ravens get to Patrick Mahomes? That's going to be the key. Now, Kansas City's offense is expected to have the services of wide receiver Xavier Worthy for this one, which gives them another dimension as far as getting the football down the field. Like I said before, Baltimore is favored in this game. They're favored by 2.5 points. All signs to me point to the Ravens going out there and winning this game. But at the end of the day, I cannot bet against Patrick Mahomes going up against Lamar Jackson. He simply continues to have Lamar's number. Thus, I'm going to take Kansas City at home by the score of 23-20. But Changus, what's going on, my man? You said Packers winning this. Dallas is in trouble. Ravens winning this. Chiefs are not good. Chiefs are not good. I totally agree with you on that. They basically have a no frills team. But the bottom line is it comes down to the quarterbacks and it comes down to the coaches. And I trust Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes more than I trust Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. They simply find ways to lose those games. You're saying they need to start thinking about trading and or releasing veterans that are making money. Well, I'll say this about the Chiefs. Like I said, they're getting Worthy back this week. And at some point, they're going to get Rashee Rice back. Their defense is going to keep them in games. It's just a matter of protecting Patrick Mahomes. But I'll tell you like this. I think the Chiefs are guilty of taking Patrick Mahomes for granted from the standpoint that it's gotten to the point there where they just simply say, you know what, we can put anybody around Patrick Mahomes and we'll be okay. It caught up to them in the Super Bowl, and it's caught up to them so far in this season. So let's see what happens for them this Sunday as they host the Ravens. Now, sticking with the 4 o'clock window, you've got the 1-2 Chicago Bears traveling to Vegas to take on the 1-2 Raiders. And for the Bears, they want to try to find a way to build off of that dominating win over the Dallas Cowboys last Sunday. However, that could be fool's gold because it's one of those where Dallas's defense is not good. Remember, the week before, Dallas's defense gave up 37 points to the New York Giants, and Russell Wilson looked like a prime John Elway when he threw for about 450 yards in that game. Nonetheless, if you're the Bears, you want to try to find a way to build off of that. On top of that, you got an opportunity to have a big amount of Bears fans in attendance. I think there's going to be a lot of Bears fans there because the Raiders still have not established themselves in Vegas, and it's not going to be like that for quite some time. And I think them playing at Allegiant Stadium opens up, the avenue for a lot of fans from opposing teams to come out there for a weekend in Vegas. I think the folks in Chicago are going to take advantage of that. However, with the way that the Bears played last week offensively, if you are Caleb Williams and company, you need to try to find a way to build off of that. As for the first time in a long time, Caleb Williams looked like the quarterback that the Bears took first overall last year. On the flip side for Vegas, tough loss last week against the Washington Commanders. The Raiders got to find a way to stop the run. The Raiders need to get their running game going with Ashton Genty, and I think that's going to open things up for the passing game for Geno Smith and company. Brock Bowers is not healthy, but Brock Bowers is still one of the best tight ends in the National Football League, and I think he has a solid afternoon against this Bears linebacking core and secondary. I like the Raiders in a tight one at home, 23-20. Now, Pachangas, the Sunday night affair that a lot of people are looking forward to is you got the 2-1 Green Bay Packers traveling to take on the 1-2 Dallas Cowboys. And of course, if you had told most of us 6 weeks ago, hey, this Sunday night game with the Packers and Cowboys was going to be the return of Micah Parsons to Dallas, you was like, well, maybe if he's hurt and he missed the first 3 games. Nobody expected him to be traded by the Cowboys, especially to another NFC team. But here it comes. It's one of those where This Dallas defense is missing Micah Parsons. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They cannot put pressure on anybody. This Dallas defense has a lot of, in the secondary, has a lot of holes, and teams are exploiting them. That's going to be big because the Packers offense did not look good last Sunday against a solid Browns defense. And I think they took Cleveland for granted and they paid for it. It's one of those where now, if you're the Packers, you have to get your focus back, and it starts on offense, and it starts with quarterback Jordan Love. However, Jordan Love has had some of his better passing games throughout his brief NFL career against this Dallas Cowboys team. I think that will once again be the case this Sunday night. Dallas is going to put up a fight because there's going to be a buzz in the building on Sunday night, and they want to show, they just weren't a Micah Parsons led defense, this, that, or the third. Also, Dallas got embarrassed last week on the road, courtesy of the Chicago Bears. However, they don't have anybody to stop Micah Parsons. I think he wants to go out there and put on a show against his former team, most notably Jerry Jones, the Cowboys president, owner, water boy, whatever you want to call him. Okay, you look at this game. Green Bay comes in favored by 6.5. I think Dallas and Dak Prescott are going to put up a fight, but at the end of the day, I still like the Packers by a touchdown, 31-24. Now, moving ahead to Monday night, another doubleheader here. Okay, the first game, you've got the winless New York Jets once again in the state of Florida, this time against the winless Miami Dolphins. And this was the toughest game for me to decide on all week long. You got two winless teams. I look at the Jets. They're more competitive than Miami. Miami's at home, okay? They have additional rest due to the fact that they played last Thursday night against the Buffalo Bills. Like I said before, this is the Jets' consecutive game in Florida. They lost a heartbreaker on Sunday to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's one of those where Aaron Glenn, like I said, in some cases, it's a throwaway year for the Jets. But Aaron Glenn's Jets, I think, towards the second half of the season, they're not going to be a team that a lot of people want to face. Okay, and it's one of those I think he's using this year to find his guys for his system. Nonetheless, this Jets defense has to go out there and find a way to throw off the timing of this Dolphins offense, and it's one of those where if you're the Jets, you need to out physical Miami. Miami does not like teams that are physical with them. That's going to be important. All signs point to Justin Fields returning as quarterback for the Jets. And at the end of the day, like, I cannot press on this enough. The Jets need to run the football. The Jets need to shorten the game and keep the football out of Tua Tagovailoa's hands. Maybe not, because Tua does have 4 interceptions so far this season. The Dolphins are favored by 2.5 points at home. It's one of those where, who do you see going 0-4? Is it going to be Miami or is it going to be the Jets? The Jets are going to keep playing hard for head coach Aaron Glenn. I think this Dolphins team is starting to tune out head coach Mike McDaniel. That's why I like New York on the road in this one, 25-23. And the second half of the doubleheader on Monday night, you've got the 2-1 Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the Mile High City to take on the 1-2 Denver Broncos. And of course, for Cincinnati, they're trying to hold the fort down without Joe Burrow, and it wasn't pretty last Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, if you're the Bengals, you just have to forget that game as quick as possible and move on. Speaking of teams that need to forget games, you look at the Broncos. They're 1-2 right now. The last two games, they very easily could have won. Defensively, they're right there. I think quarterback Bo Nix is now in that category where teams have a year's worth of game film on him and they have adjusted to what he did. It's going to be important for this Bengals defense to try to go out there and keep this offense in the game, because even with Jake Browning, okay, a guy who's been in Cincinnati's system for quite some time, I do not like him at quarterback going up against this Denver defense. You look at the Broncos; they come into this contest favored by 7.5 points at home. I think Denver gets back on track on this one, as I like the Broncos 30-17. So, folks, those are my picks for week number 4 in this NFL season. And as always, I want to take the time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw in this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button first and foremost. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do so. We're closing in on 1,000, folks. Just 7 more. All right. Pachangus, as always, it was a pleasure. Appreciate you chiming in. And I know who you're going to be rooting for on Sunday. Not going to put all your business out there. But it's one of those things. I'll tell you like this, though, my man. You might be disappointed. TFX, my man, I know you're rocking and rolling. I know you're ready to go for week number 4. And let's see if the teams that you're pulling for are going to make you happy as well. Also, folks, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, I'll give you that follow right back in return. And the same goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you're on Facebook, be sure to check us out at the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. Guys, make sure that you enjoy those games this Sunday. There's a lot of good football on this Sunday. We saw a lot of good games last Sunday. How about 3 games almost being decided based off of block kicks? I mean, that block kick definitely helped out Cincinnati, and of course, the Eagles. The Jets tried, but they couldn't hold off the Bucks. Let's see what's in store this weekend, because I think we got some good games on tap for Sunday. But nonetheless, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.